That is the crew of Artemis II back on April 10th, celebrating a successful splashdown in the Pacific Ocean following an historic 10-day mission to the moon.
Yeah, baby. In a national morning show, English language exclusive, we are joined by the entire crew this morning. We've got Commander Reid Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Cook, and of course, Canada's own Jeremy Hansen. Welcome back to the morning show. In fact, welcome back to Earth.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Listen, we got to start with that moment we just saw there. What was it like being back on Earth again and seeing faces, I guess, other than your own, which you'd all been staring at each other for 10 days? And was one of you recording this hatch opening right after splashdown?
Absolutely. We'd been in the spacecraft for probably an hour right now. We don't remember how long we were in there after splashdown. You can tell there's so much joy, so much adrenaline, and just seeing these folks that we had trained with in the United States Navy who were there to recover us, to get us out of the spacecraft, the Integrity spacecraft, after a 10-day journey around the moon. It's just such a joyous moment in our lives. Never forget that.
Well, nor will we. I mean, we all felt it as well. And it is so great having you all here in Canada. Yesterday, we saw that you received quite the welcome at the Canadian Space Agency. You also met with the Prime Minister. Jeremy, specifically for you, what has it been like returning home to Canada after such a historic mission?
Super special for myself, but also for the whole crew and our backup, Jenny Gibbons. Warm welcome back on Canadian soil. And also just for us, we've been soaking in this idea that the world came along on this mission with us. It wasn't exactly what we expected, but we're super grateful that people like you have been sharing it and others have been leaning in and just sharing the joy that we experienced flying around the moon, doing something super challenging, but also demonstrating that we can have a great time and lift one another up at the same time.
Well, you certainly did that, and that was a great welcome at the Canadian Space Agency. Another warm welcome we want to revisit is this one right here. Christina's reunion with Sadie.
I knew that was coming.
Christina, it looked like Sadie's tail was going to come off. It was wagging so hard. Talk to us about this.
Sadie was very excited that day. I think I was more excited than she was, though. And she might have greeted you the same way, though, to be honest. She's a sweet dog. I missed her quite a bit.
I bet.
Well, she clearly missed you, too. Okay, one of my favorite moments was watching the kids getting to ask you guys questions in space. And this, in fact, was the mission that got my 15-year-old son really interested in space travel. He hasn't stopped talking about it. And Victor, is that one of the goals here, to inspire the next generation?
It absolutely is. Not only is it a part of NASA's mission, it is something that was very important to us as a crew. And like Jeremy said earlier, we are still surprised folks chose to come along with us, but it was something we hoped for and we worked for and we prepared for, and now it's just great to see. I love hearing that teenagers, I have one teenager remaining, and to know that young folks were inspired by this mission, that actually inspires me very much.
You know, there were so many emotional moments during this mission. Perhaps the most emotional for a lot of us watching back here on Earth, Reid, was when we watched Jeremy name that crater on the dark side of the moon after your late wife, Carol. Can you talk to us and describe for us what that moment was like for you?
Surreal is probably the only word that can come to my mind. My two daughters, Ellie and Katie, were in mission control. We didn't plan any of that. We didn't know when Jeremy was going to name that crater. We had talked before we launched very briefly at the Kennedy Space Center. Christina had come up with this idea. We talked as a crew. Jeremy presented it to me, and I said, this is an amazing honor. The fact that these three human beings would even think about this to honor my family was extremely emotional for me. And my only request was, this is great, but I cannot give the speech. And then when Jeremy knew Carol very, very well. We were all very tight down there in Houston, Texas. And when he started talking and I could hear his voice start to waver just a little bit, I knew I didn't know how he was going to get through the rest of that, but he made it through the rest of that talk. And there was a day that bonded us, certainly for the rest of the mission.
Moving forward, you guys are family now.
Yeah.
Yes. That is true.
I think as close as you can get, yes.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Jeremy, you know, everyone here in Canada, the entire country, we were riding along with you in that shuttle. As a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, the Canadian Space Launch Act was introduced, as I'm sure you well know, to enable our own independent launch capabilities down the road. What's your hope, Jeremy, for Canada's role in future space endeavors? And do you want to go back? Do you want to go back into space?
I think Canadians have an extraordinary vision for how we can leverage space to help us with the challenges we face on the planet as NASA is leading us back to the moon again, to the surface. When you look at the problem set on the surface of the moon or even Mars, it starts to overlap with some basic challenges that we face here in Canada. So we can do kind of two things at once. We can tackle the problems here and then take those solutions to space with our international partners. And that will allow us to do or to send more Canadians in the future to space and inspire more young Canadians to dream big and show up and do things, actually do things and solve problems. I think that's tremendous. We're going to have Josh Kutrick launch to the International Space Station in September. That's a big focus for us right now. And the backup astronaut for this mission for myself was Jenny Gibbons. She's an extraordinary astronaut. That's high on my list of priorities to get Jenny into space.
Before we let you go, we always hear how humbling it is to look back at Earth when you're in space. When you look back at your 10-day journey, all of you collectively, is there a particular moment where you all agree on that was just unbelievably profound?
Besides splashdown, maybe when we went sci-fi. There's so many.
Yeah, sci-fi.
Yeah. We were very lucky to witness a solar eclipse on this mission, and it wasn't something that we had initially trained for. It was just orbital mechanics luck of the day that we launched. And the science teams got together, they figured out how we could get scientific observations from this incredible thing. But the real experience was the human experience of looking out the window and seeing something that our brains could not even process. I can tell you, it was almost hard to look at this amazing orb for too long. It was 3D, but it was also devoid of light because the tiny sun was behind the moon. It was an absolutely incredible sight. And I mean, I think we're all still processing what that meant to look at that with human eyes.
Well, well said and well done. The four of you made us all incredibly proud. Your impact, profound. Great seeing you all again and having you back with us here this morning on TMS. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I'll just close out by just reminding Canadians how proud I am of them for putting us in this situation to be the second country in the world to send a human into deep space. That was not done by me, I assure you. That was done by thousands of people over decades with a vision. And I'm excited to see what vision we come up with and follow through with next.
You bet. Thank you all again. Appreciate it.
Bye now.